another episode of Living Room Wisdom, where your story is your glory. Today, I have a beautiful guest here that I get to introduce you to. This is Dr. Yve Ruiz.
Ooh, thank you.
And of course, I have to put a little extra on it because that's a sexy
flair.
name.
Thank you.
So Yve is a physician turned personal leadership and relationship empowerment mentor, correct?
Yes.
And what I also know about this beautiful woman is that she specializes in helping survivors of narcissism. So you know this is going to be a juicy episode. So welcome, first off. I'm so happy we were finally able to do this.
Yes, me too. Thank you. I've been so
Yes.
excited ever since you were on my summit to be able to do something else with you again. I love your energy. So
There's
thank you
something
very
so
much.
beautiful about, because we were connected, right? So there's something so
Yes.
beautiful about being connected and not even really understanding the connection. And then as you start to drop in, everything just starts to unfold. And
Exactly.
I feel like I learned a ton about you on that summit,
Wow.
as well as you learning about me. And that made
It
me
was
more excited
beautiful.
for today.
Yes.
So let's start off with having you share a little bit of your backstory, your journey of how you got here.
Absolutely. And first, I must say, we will do it after the recording, but I feel such a kinship or sisterhood with you. I can't wait to hug you.
Yay!
So we'll do
I
that.
know, normally
We'll do
I
that
hug
right after.
first, but
you were
we're on
already in
schedule.
place. No worries. Oh, no worries. All comes in divine time.
Yeah, it'll be worth the wait, I'll tell you that.
Good. That goes both ways.
Yeah.
All right. So if you wouldn't mind repeating the question, I'm so sorry.
I want you to share a
Yes.
little bit about your journey to where you are now and the work that you're doing, maybe even the catalyst for what took you down this path.
Absolutely. It seems that for generations, my family has had history of someone, whether it's through personality or some other factors, be maybe unfair in their treatment of others. And this has gone on both sides of my parents' families. So it went from my great-grandfather down to my grandfather. That legacy then continued to my father. And this happened through my grandmother on my mother's side to my mother and to me. And what we are talking about is the phenomenon of experiencing some grievous enough experiences that the growth emotionally was stunted in certain areas in all these family members, so that they would have trouble with playing on an even playing field because they always felt behind or like the underdog. It's just that the amount was so great that the way that they were made to feel better was when they would pull someone else down.
Oh.
So I am here to cut that legacy and create a new one. And it isn't that it hasn't been attempted. I think this is a work in progress because I know that I have seen my mother attempt to do the same.
Wow. So it's like generational trauma, really. It's something that you've seen
Yes.
and experienced throughout your entire life.
Yes.
And so when did you become consciously aware of this pattern?
I remember when I was young, my mom mentally preparing herself and my father mentally preparing her for visits to my maternal grandmother. The routine seemed to be that they would build her sense of confidence up. We'd go. My mom would laugh. She would do whatever she was going to do. My grandmother would have certain kinds of comments for other family members, but would usually do cut downs toward my mom. And the whole ride home was usually my mom in tears or just sitting more still and quiet with my father holding her hand and saying supportive comments to her, and also often saying, you know, we don't have to go there as often. We don't have to stay as long. You
Trying
don't
to
have to put
protect her,
yourself through this.
essentially.
Exactly, in the
Yeah.
way that he knew how.
Of course.
You know? And that's the thing. They would role model for us the extent of what they had figured out they could do in those situations.
Yeah.
And so I grew up to think that that was reality and that was the extent of what I could do to protect myself. I didn't know that there was more.
Okay.
I didn't know that there were preventive things. So graduate from that type of experience growing up to when my own husband and I, as much as I thought that I had taken precautions not to repeat the pattern, he did turn out to be a clandestine or covert narcissist. And I had not only finished college, I had also gotten into medical school, chose family medicine, and then chose psychiatry to train in. This is only what 2% of the doctors in all the country do.
Yeah.
And I still did not know or recognize at face value that that's what I was in until I went to one person who was doing acupuncture on me. And in the midst of the treatments once, she just sat up and said, "Yve, we've got to stop. I need to tell you something. You don't feel happy. You don't seem happy, and you should be in this situation. I want to give to you a book." So through all those years of investment intellectually and training from top physicians, I learned that I was in a narcissistic relationship by this 50-page book that an acupuncturist gave me.
Gave you alternative medicine, right? Of
Exactly.
course.
Exactly.
How funny.
It is not a put down to traditional medicine because every medicine, every type of medicine has its strengths. It's just that I am such a strong believer, especially now, in integrating all kinds of medicine. And that's why I now have my East meets West approach.
Love it.
So that I can not only be consummate in the knowledge of how to diagnose, give prognosis, treat, and help others, but I can also help to prevent. And American medicine has been striving more toward that as insurance companies notice they get more money or save more money by not having to pay for far gone people in health.
So I have a question for you because where you do a lot of work with narcissism, and you mentioned two types of, you said covert and something else. How many different types of narcissism are there?
You know, that's a great question, and it depends who you ask. Because in truth, narcissism is simply a spectrum. So we'll cut the lines, we'll cut it into as many pieces as we want.
Mind blowing.
Yes. And I'm so thankful that you brought this up because, narcissism is healthy. It's actually a defense mechanism that we are bestowed with so that we can deal with things. For instance, if we think that we have been doing our work in the office well enough to get a raise, how are we able to ask for that raise? We must use our narcissism, our ability to think enough of ourselves and our worth to be able to go to someone of authority and say, I deserve to be paid more my worth.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, there's nothing pathological about that. Indeed, it is truly a defense mechanism.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then there are the type that were personified ages ago by like Happy Days, the Fonz, for anyone who might remember or see this on other shows. This factor where someone appreciates looking in the mirror and combing their hair and saying, oh, I just look so fine. Okay, that is simply further into the spectrum where we're able to revel more in ourselves, but it's still not harmful. It's not pathological, right? Drawing the line to where it's pathological or toxic narcissism, and now we're getting into those different types, is when the person behaves this way at other people's expense, when they don't respect how others might feel, how they may affect them. Okay?
Wow.
Yes. And so commonly there are 3, but sometimes they will say 4 categories. I'm just going to go over the features so that you can understand more comprehensively within the spectrum, okay? So there's going to be the overt or the outrageous narcissist, okay? And this kind of person can be typified by, I'll think of the keyword in just a moment, but because I'm on this thought, I think I'll continue this first. They can be more bombastic in their thinking well of themselves. They can be preachy. They can have a lot of hot air when they talk. Interestingly enough, those kinds of narcissists are the least harmful. They're the least toxic. Why? Because they kind of put their ego on their sleeve. You can see what they're all about. Then you can move on.
They're the ones where you're like, oh, you just love hearing yourself talk.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
And you just wait for the hot air balloon to float away.
To
You're
deflate,
fine. That's
so
right.
you can get a word in.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, I even created a skill with that, learning how to read their words and time their breaths so that I could get in a word before they said the next sentence.
Yeah.
And so another type is I'll call them the covert. There are many words for them. I like the word covert or clandestine because they are secretive about being selfish. So the way that they are charismatic or draw attention to themselves is being like the shucks kind of person. You know, it's like, I didn't mean to be this way, but everything fell into place and everyone started bowing to me and listening to, everything. And for those who were stupid enough not to listen, but they wouldn't say it that way, right? They would say, and those people who refused to hear me out, they ended up coming to me for help afterward because immediately they saw the error in their ways, you know? These are the people who are actively seeking external confirmation for their virtues. So they're compliment fishing, really, as they speak and as they share their stories. Because one highlight feature of someone who is narcissistic is, unfortunately, that they tend to rely more on external reinforcement for uplifting of their self-confidence. Okay, so you'll find a covert narcissistic person often in the position of a religious leader.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking more cult, but
And it certainly can.
Yeah.
You bet it can. Absolutely. That you could consider one extreme end of it.
Right.
I'm so glad you brought that up because so many people in this population think, I'm lucky. I've never dealt with a narcissist, or I never would because blah, blah, blah. A hallmark of being associated with a narcissistic experience is when we have had a time when dealing with someone or a situation with a group of people, we started to deteriorate in our self-concept and get more confused about whether we were right, whether we were capable of thinking through things for ourselves, and we started to feel more dependent on another.
That's scary.
And that's why people might not think instantly of a cult. They might think of a cult, well, they're just wacko. Well, when we break it down, it starts with someone who is an extreme toxic narcissist. Okay.
And then what's the third type?
A third one is related to the dark triad. And what we're talking about here is a person who within their personality has Machiavellian features. So they have sadism within their complex. So they can feel not only narcissistic or selfish, but they also may want to hurt you. They may want to put you down. Okay.
So it sounds like, if I'm not mishearing this, that the first two that we talked about, it's not necessarily intentional. It's either right. At least, well, I don't know if it's right. You tell me. But it sounds as if the first two types are not necessarily intentional. One of them is seeking validation, so it's coming from their own internal need, and then the other one has just got a very high self-image.
Thank you.
Or
Thank you very
value.
much for sharing this with me. I love how we are shaping our conversation. It's actually the perfect question so that we can now clarify the roots of this. I am now talking about the different types of toxic narcissists.
Yes.
So we have entered into where people, using their personalities and their shortcomings in terms of their self-esteem, are intentionally
So all three of them are
manipulating people.
intentional?
Yes.
Whew.
Every single one of them.
Wow. So calculated.
Exactly.
What is it? Manipulative. Like they
Yes.
are intentionally doing this.
Exactly.
Wow.
They just play a different game. So we have, now the word came back. So with the bombastic one, often sociopaths will fall
Okay.
into this, all right? And with the covert one, psychopaths will tend to fall into that. Because the psychopath is
so
usually
layered.
appearing in the news as that quiet neighbor who is maybe coaching a soccer team or doing other things, going to church regularly, and you would never ever know that there was this dark side, right? Okay, the bombastic one is the neighbor that nobody likes because they have over time dealing with them found their boundaries violated physically or otherwise, with the grounds that they live on, etc. And then the Machiavellian one, or the one that includes darker features, that is not a separate person per se. This is the spectrum of the narcissism. So this is the deeper end. A psychopath can be this way. A sociopath can have those. But one thing is for sure, that if you are dealing with them, they are even more crafty to get you deep into their web. And it's often these ones that you will hear about in the news because of the outstanding violence or sadism that they'll display.
Jeez, that is so scary. And so it makes me curious with your own experience with your husband, right?
Yes.
How did you start to become aware, right? Because I feel like once they get you under their spell, it's kind of hard to think for yourself. So I know the acupuncturist gave you the book. You read the book, so you saw yourself in the book. And then how did you build up the courage? And what steps, like how did you know how to even take those steps to get out of that situation? Or did the book tell you?
Thank you very much. There are actually several questions in here, and what I'll do is I will simply go into a progression that is succinct, so we cover all the bases.
Share the pathway. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who are in some sort of a toxic narcissist relationship, and or maybe they're the narcissist and don't know it. But I would love for there to be a pathway for moving forward on that.
Yes, and we're laughing, and you know what? You have said another truth. There have been psychologists who have read about this and then realized that they do some of those things that they didn't consider abuse, and maybe a lot of people don't, but once they realize, then they focus attention on not repeating those patterns.
Right.
Okay? And so that would be an example of someone who maybe engaged in some toxicity, but was not in the deep end, and they were able to maneuver out of that. Okay. All right. So it started off with love bombing, where he met me and was making me think that he considered me the best thing since sliced bread. But I did notice some issues even from the very start, which I turned a blind eye to. I mean, I don't want to say I flat out ignored it. What I did was I confronted him immediately. He made me feel as though I were acting a little crazy or overreacting, and I slid into the mistake of believing him a little bit and thinking, well, I know that I've had certain situations in the past. This could be something, partly an extension from that, right? Then what happened was, as we had our whirlwind romance and then got married, I noticed that he was complaining an awful lot about his ex-wife. And with my psychiatry training, as soon as I started hearing that, I knew that means he's going to start complaining about me in time. And it's going to get to the point where he's going to complain to someone else about it. I did not like that I saw in him. However, there was so much else that appeared positive. I thought, can't always be the psychiatrist. I need to just take life step by step, go with the flow and see what happens. Again, because I didn't recognize it to begin with. Okay. All right. So go a few more years, and this is what is called white collar narcissism. He never called me names. He never tried to beat me with anything, although we did get into a couple physical struggles for which I did call the police.
Wow.
And he smoothly lied his way out of getting into jail. Very, very clever with his words, with his concepts, knowing exactly how to twist things so that he wouldn't have to take care of consequences. Okay? And so I grew up within the marriage realizing that as more time passed, I was not feeling a deeper connection and was wondering, why was I up against this stumbling wall? And why was it feeling like I was pouring more and more into this investment, but not getting a return? In comes the situation where I ended up doing acupuncture. And when this lady gave me this book, and I was on a trip actually separating from my husband for a while because I needed a break from him. I was in the back seat of some friends' cars. We were driving all the way to Martha's Vineyard for the first time, and I sat most of the time with my jaw dropped to my chest as I was going page after page in this book. I was recognizing how I had been behaving in light of this person and was recognizing his comments. It's like they saw him through a magnifying glass. It shocked me. And from there, I knew I needed to read up a lot more about this and figure out a way out. It only confirmed that things were not going well and that it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
And I'm saying it wasn't just me because I am part of a situation where this is going on. And I didn't realize as much agency as I could have to be able to quell the circumstances. I worked within a certain set of guidelines that I thought made sense. And they do for most of us. Okay? These are the common guidelines for people who want to be in a team with others, who want an even playing field, and who care about each other and not hurting each other to get to the top. A narcissist works by a whole different set of guidelines. So when I apply my set to him, it's completely ineffectual because he'll dance around it and end up going up his guidelines so he wins. See, I want us to win. He wanted to win.
Makes sense.
Exactly. So learning so many dynamics, I was quickly strategizing. There's also this whole other side of things. While my mind was busy thinking, I'm a psychiatrist, I should know this. And the second thought, by the way, was, and if I am this educated and a psychiatrist and I didn't know, how many more millions of women don't know in this country who don't have this education?
It makes me curious, though, outside of the education, because high achieving women typically do a lot of thinking, a lot of what's practical, what's logical, a lot of strategy. But what was your body and your heart telling you?
And
what was your intuition
thank you.
telling
And that's
you?
exactly where I'm going now. Thank you so much. It's like I paid you to do that. And so
Take it. Checks in the mail.
That's right. Thank you. So it was not only about processing in my head, there's this whole other side. I was so hurt. I felt so destroyed. I felt so betrayed once I realized what was really going on. I knew that going into the marriage, I was a strong woman, self-professed, woman of strength, woman of intellect, and woman who'd already gone through a bit of emotional long suffering and was claiming my stake and getting my freedom, only to have walked straight into another more covert trap. I remember when I would go back to the hospital, I was a resident at the time. I need to backtrack just one step. I just had a flashback and I didn't realize it. So I'm going to a flashback to another person who treated me this way. And so when I was working in the hospital, I remember walking in with serious noodle legs. That's what I called it, because it felt difficult to stand up on my own 2 feet because my body had engaged such a blow at realizing what had become of our relationship. Okay? And so that is mirrored up here when I'm actually more than facing the verbal violence or whatever was going on before with someone else, when I saw this is not something that is to be worked through together in the way that most psychologists would think would fix situations and relationships. This was a situation where someone at all odds depended on winning and beating. And if I did not supply enough narcissistic supply, he'd simply drop me and move on to the next.
That's how they operate.
Yes, exactly.
Goodness. This is deep. And I feel like narcissism has become a topic of conversation more so maybe in the last like 5-6 years, or maybe I was just living under a rock and had never heard the term. But is this something that you feel, because again, I mean, you were an actual psychologist, you were a physician.
Psychiatrist,
and had not,
yes. No worries. They're both a lot of work.
Psychiatrist. And you had not been exposed to this. So why do you think that this is such a kind of a newer conversation that's being brought?
It takes people standing up and talking about it in public. And it also takes a society that might be more ready to listen and hear.
Say that again.
Thank you. When I started my coaching, when I decided to to go into this as my occupation instead of traditional medicine, I was met with a lot of resistance by my business coaches. And I was coached to get away from the topic of narcissism. And they said, this is not what people are talking about. They're not going to tune into it. They're not, And what they said was confidence. You're really talking about people gaining more confidence under your guidance, right? And I said, sure. And so I talked about confidence. The thing was, for me, confidence only was a bit bland because I really wanted to be a mover and a shaker. Yeah. I felt like this globe just needed a little bit more awakening into what is going on behind closed doors and how, if we, particularly women, unite and not take it. But first we have to learn about it.
Exactly.
Right? Then we can make a difference in this world and make it a better world, a better legacy for our children to grow up into.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you were being advised to stay away from that topic when that topic is actually something that would have made you stand out in the market, which you've probably since learned, right? Because you're bringing something different, something disruptive, something that's really going to actually enhance people's lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Precisely.
And how long ago did you make that pivot?
I did this. It's been within the past 6 years that I have seriously made this change.
So let me ask you this question. When painful past relational wounds resurface, as they often do.
And did here a moment ago.
Like they just did a moment ago.
Yes.
What is one of the tools that you use to stay anchored and not get pulled back into the shame or the fear of that situation?
I appreciate your mentioning shame. Shame and fear. Fear is the more one that people know about. Shame is about having guilt over things often that we did not have a part in. Narcissists are master projectionists, and they will project their shame onto you as a form of manipulation to get you to do their bidding. And so when you're raised by narcissists or you are married to a narcissist, this becomes part of your conditioning as they shape you to their own needs.
I find this point interesting for this reason, because up until right now, I always thought that narcissists prey on weaker personality types. However, when you're speaking, I'm thinking now about our audience of high-achieving women and how much pride we take in our accomplishments and our roles and our titles and how we look to the outside, right? Which, I talk a lot about, we create this beautiful success on the outside, but inside there's something misaligned or crumbling.
Yes.
And I could see how a narcissist could also prey on a high-achieving woman.
Exactly.
For the reason of the shame. Because if they manage to get inside and manipulate and become your puppet master, they know that 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to say anything because you don't want to bring shame to your name.
Right.
That's a whole different perspective that I literally hadn't even thought about until now.
And thank you for using the phrase puppet master. Yeah. In one of my series of videos on narcissism on YouTube, I literally have a woman with strings and the crossbars like being treated like a marionette, where the narcissist really is manipulating her that way. It's for the gaslighting video.
Well, it's I feel like for someone who has a friend or a family member or someone in their life who's experiencing a narcissist relationship, it's really easy for us to see it. Like you're not yourself, you're, being controlled or whatever it is. You see the fear, you see the shame, you see that they're almost checked out, right? At a certain point. And so for the person, the woman who might be experiencing it, but has not yet awakened to it, as we're bringing this episode to a close, I'd love for you to speak to them and what maybe to look out for or what the experience might be feeling like within them. So what are those identifiers?
When a woman is over time relating to someone and they start to question themselves more and they begin to feel as though their energies are not being reciprocated as much, and it makes them hunger to be closer to the person, to be more approved of, more loved, more touched, whatever. And they find their partner dangling that carrot before them, saying, if you do this, then that. But that carrot keeps moving. Okay, this is one of the hallmark things that you may find in a partner. And this can be with a lover or a parent. And by the way, it's not, we're only talking about family members so far, but this is for everybody.
Friends.
It can happen. Yes, it can be a boss. It can be the leader of a women's group. It can be anybody. This narcissism business extends. It knows no social stratus. It knows no ethnicity, no gender. There are no boundaries. You can find this anywhere in any walk of life. So when you start feeling as though your relationship with someone or a group is one-sided, increasingly, especially over time, they don't seem to be empathic toward your needs when you express, but instead turn things on you. You feel blamed. You feel shame. This is definitely a time to start looking for some help.
And where can they find that help? How can our audience connect with you?
Thank you so much. I can be reached at my, let's see, I can start with my phone number with texting me because that's the quickest way and the easiest for people to access.
So intimate.
Yes, I have it blasted all over Facebook.
Oh, wow.
So, and I have never gotten a bad call.
That's
Never.
wonderful.
Yeah, I'm fearless about this. So my area code is 949-424-4494. I'll give you a free consultation if you have any questions. If you just like to know a little bit more about a narcissistic experience you've had, it doesn't have to be a long-term relationship. I'm here to help. And I am, as far as social media, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on Instagram. I really lean into Facebook more, but I am getting more into LinkedIn. I know I need to get more with the times.
Yeah, there's no need. You know, you do what feels most aligned and we can leverage out the rest. So
Yeah, that's
I'm going
very
to put all
true.
your information in the show notes and
Thank you.
make it easy.
Oh, thank you. Because I do have a free gift for them if that's
Okay,
allowed.
wonderful.
You know, talking about how can you spot narcissism, I have a handout. It's called the Essential Narcbuster Guide, and it shows all these ways that they might manipulate you,
Wonderful.
from subtle to strong.
Wonderful. So you heard it here. We'll go ahead and put that link in the show notes for easy access. And I want to thank you again for being here. We finally did it.
Yes.
Yes. And I want to thank you also for joining us on another episode of Living Room Wisdom. If you got value from this episode, go ahead and subscribe, comment, leave us a review, share with your friends,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Watch it over and over again. And with that, I also want to invite you into our Sovereign CEO Collective. There'll be details in the show notes as well. But if you would love to be surrounded by like-hearted, like-minded sovereign leaders, then that's definitely the place for you. So until then, we'll see you next week. Same time, same channel on Living Room Wisdom. Make it a great day. Bye.
And thank you.
And cut. Wonderful.